As of July 12th of 2026, there are currently 47 volcanoes which are actively erupting around the planet, a total which is the same number as were erupting last week, albeit with two changes. Out of all of these erupting volcanoes, the strangest of the group can be found within Tanzania via the towering old Doinyo Lengai volcano. Unlike every other volcano which erupts lava that is primarily composed of silicon dioxide, all Doinyo Lengai's lavas only have 3% silicon dioxide with a majority composition of carbonate minerals. Also enriched in alkali elements and rare earth elements, these natural carbonatite lavas it produces quickly change from a dark black to white color within 100 hours of being erupted. And now, here are this week's top volcano-related news stories. In Spain's Canary Islands, at the Teide volcano, where slight ongoing ground deformation is confirmed on a segment of Tenerife Island, this week saw another hybrid earthquake swarm strike underneath the volcano. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, the Gamalama volcano erupted anew, marking its first eruption since April 2024. And in what is this week's top story, the Kanlaon volcano in the Philippines produced a major eruption which, despite being heavily obscured, produced pyroclastic flows and a 2.5 kilometer high eruption plume. Yet, there is a key reason why I have chosen this eruption as my top story this week. Now, this is purely my opinion, but I think the current 4-kilometer exclusion zone around the volcano is now insufficient. Why? At least a single structure was damaged by the 3-minute-long July 9th eruption that occurred at 7:33 a.m. local time, and while in my opinion injuries or deaths were still unlikely, they could have theoretically happened. The reason for this is that the structure in question, as reported by Five Oaks, had its roof punctured in multiple spots by thrown volcanic blocks, and in addition, there were reliable reports of ballistic projectiles as large as 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches wide that were thrown within a distance that was further than 4,000 meters but less than 5,000 meters from Kanlaon's summit. In other words, outside its current exclusion zone. We don't know what angle these rock fragments, presumably andesitic scoria, were thrown at, but in my opinion, Five Oaks or relevant scientists need to calculate what is the reasonable maximum distance ballistic projectiles could be thrown in a future moderate to large eruption like the ones we've repeatedly seen since 2024 at Kanlaon, probably via a hypothetical 45-degree launch angle and a hypothetical tailwind of 40 kilometers per hour. Then, whatever that value is, in my opinion should become the minimum new exclusion zone since the current one did not seemingly account for ballistic projectiles and I want people to not be potentially harmed by future eruptive activity. This eruption was preceded by a short-term increase in both sulfur dioxide emissions and earthquakes, which I interpret formed a partial plug that then burst underneath a narrower section of the volcano's magma conduit. While Kanlaon has not erupted since, it is most likely, in my opinion, to produce more of its common, smaller, and low-level ash emission events. Meanwhile, in the Canary Islands, the first hybrid earthquake storm to strike the Teide volcano in 4.5 months occurred. Just like the 7 prior hybrid storms earlier in the year, this specifically took place about 3,500 meters southwest of its summit at 8 to 12 kilometers depth. Approximately 471 hybrid earthquakes occurred between 6:34 p.m. and 11 p.m. local time on July 3rd. This swarm was most likely caused by migrating volatiles of hydrothermal fluids, primarily water and carbon dioxide, that rose due to a possible deeper body of magma. Teide has been experiencing occasional hybrid swarms since 2016, which in my opinion might be linked to the accumulation of magma in the ductile crust since then. However, 2026 has proven to be a year with the highest level of hybrid earthquake swarms since then, and this has occurred alongside a slight ground deformation on a portion of Teide's northeast sector and a small increase in its diffuse carbon dioxide emissions per involcan. This doesn't mean that the volcano is anywhere close to erupting in my opinion, but it is continuing to display a very low level of unrest that has persisted since portions of 2016. And in Indonesia, the Gamalama volcano produced a brief and weak phreatic eruption at around 3:30 p.m. local time on July 7th. This eruption produced a plume that seemingly rose no more than 600 meters above its summit and caused some minor ash particles to fall on certain sections of the populated island. No other eruptive activity occurred since then, although a 1,500-meter exclusion zone around its summit area remains in place. And now, here is a quick list of all the world's volcanoes which are currently erupting. Additionally, here are some volcanoes showing signs of unrest which are not erupting as of the recording of this video on July 11th of 2026. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member Jared Wilson 9979 for supporting my work.